Good afternoon and welcome everyone to our webinar this afternoon looking into what's new in the second edition of our Essential Maths for Queensland Units 1 and 2, along with some support as well for the syllabus implementation. My name is Kim Keane and I am the State Manager here in Queensland. Before we get started today, in the spirit of reconciliation, Cambridge University Press acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We repay our respect to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Our presenter this afternoon is Leanne Butler. She's a mathematics teacher at Downlands College in Toowoomba and has over 30 years teaching experience across all levels from years 7 to 12 at various schools across southeast Queensland and New South Wales. She has a keen interest in helping students overcome their apprehension toward mathematics by exploring how students learn maths and find real-life relevance for simple and complex mathematical concepts. Cambridge has been really fortunate to have Leanne on our team since the development and publication of the first edition of the books, where her passion for the subject and this group of students really inspired all of us here at Cambridge. Please know that during Leanne's presentation, you can type any questions you may have in the chat box, and any questions we don't answer during the webinar, we will respond to during the following Q&A session, where myself, Leanne, and the publisher on this title, Cameron Pico, will join us as well. So without further ado, please welcome Leanne Butler. Thanks, Leanne.
Thank you, Katie, Kim. Welcome, everybody. We're very excited about the second edition of our textbook and the changes that we've made in response to the new syllabus and the feedback received from everybody. So this afternoon, we're going to be talking about the changes that have been made in the 2025 Essential Maths syllabus and the improvements and the new features of this second edition textbook that's being released. Following all of that, we will have a Q&A session. So firstly, we'll just talk about what has changed in the new syllabus. So there's quite a few changes, and here's a summary of what has happened in the new syllabus. So there's been a simplification of the objectives of the syllabus. The subject matter has been rearranged, some of it's been removed, some of it's had wording changed for clarity, and they've included some additional formulas within it. As far as formulas are concerned, they're now included within the subject matter and have been updated in the formula book, just so there's some consistency across the general maths and the essential maths, because there are students that move between those two subjects. There's been some changes to assessment specification, and you'll notice that the actual document itself is a bit shorter because the glossary has been moved online. So we'll talk about some of those in more detail. So the first thing I want to show you is how the syllabus objectives have been simplified a lot. So you'll notice that they've removed the actual topics from the objectives, and they've simplified the communication and justification objectives. These objectives really are key to the problem-solving approach that is within the syllabus and that we've really taken on board in this one. I'll talk more to that shortly. A lot of the subject matter has been rearranged. So you'll notice that from the 2019 subject syllabus to the 2025 syllabus, in Unit 1 and Unit 2, graphs has been moved from Unit 1 to Unit 2. Managing money has done the reverse. Time and motion and data collection have been reordered within that. So that's just the topics. We also have made changes within the subtopics as well. In Unit 3 and 4, and this will have an impact on the CIA, they've had some changes there from Unit 3 to Unit 4, with Topic 3 in Unit 3, summarising comparing data, is now moved to Unit 4, and a probability and relative frequencies has been moved to Topic 3. Okay, so just an example, if I just look at one subtopic, because every subtopic has got this sort of changes within it. So I picked from Unit 2, Topic 3, speed, which has now been moved. It's still in Unit 2, but it's Topic 3, and there are some changes to the subject matter. So the first one, you'll notice the first dot point, while it's still there, identify the appropriate units for different activities. It has been somewhat simplified, so they're not giving those examples there anymore, so it's a lot wider for you. The next two dot points have actually been moved completely out of that subtopic, and there's a new subtopic called units of energy in Unit 1. And so it's taken subject matter from other subtopics to create a new subtopic. So that's been moved. You'll notice the fourth dot point there, calculating speed, distance, and time using the formula. So in the first syllabus, it only said speed equals distance over time, but on the formula sheet, it had all of those formulas. Speed equals distance over time, distance equals speed times time. So they were on the formula sheet, but weren't in the actual syllabus document. So there's a bit of a mismatch there, if you like, between what was in the syllabus and what was on the formula sheet. So a lot more clarity now around that by putting those formulas within the subject matter. The next thing that you'll notice that they've done is they've actually removed some subject matter, and that one is able to be removed because you'll notice it's actually absorbed within the dot point below. So average speed is still there, but it doesn't have its own unique dot point anymore. But we could do that with every subtopic. It's massive. So I'll just give you that as an example. There's plenty of there. As far as assessment specifications, they have made changes to both the PSMT and the exams. So with the PSMT, they've changed, the duration has been removed. That's the same across all subjects. So while it was 5 weeks, it's now up to the school to make its own decisions about how long they run the PSMT for. I'd be keeping in mind that 5 weeks was suggested last time. I'd be probably trying to keep it around 5 weeks this time because, as we all know, while the kids have got an assignment, they're not really that interested in doing their homework, and that they need to do. They've reduced the amount of class time from 10 hours to 8 hours. And when they've got that reordering of the topics, it's probably going to change what you have run in the past as your PSMT topic. So it might mean when you put your things in for endorsement, make sure that you are using the latest version of the syllabus and that the topics are in the right unit. They've also updated the instrument-specific standards, the ISS. It's a lot simpler to use now, but it's basic, it's reworded, but it's much the same. As far as the CIA and the IA4 are concerned, just that reordering of those topics in Unit 3 and Unit 4 will have an impact on current assessment that you've got, and just going to need to be mindful of that. They have changed the wording on the instrument-specific standards for that, but the cutoffs remain exactly as they were. Okay, so as you can see, there's lots of changes within that subject matter organisation, which has been it's one of the key issues we've addressed with this second edition. So it gives me really great pleasure to talk to you about our new edition, because it's been really quite an exciting project to be involved in, certainly with the first one, and I think this one is actually better again. We have had some changes to the author team for this edition. So we welcome Natalie Carlisle. I'll give her a little wave because she's probably online. So Natalie is a first-time author to the team. She's got some really new, enthusiastic ideas, and has really been a big asset to the team for this new edition. We also welcome Kim Willoxon, who's also going to be online. Hi, Kim. Kim is a teacher of Essential Maths as well, and is a consultant on this edition. All of us, myself included, are teachers of Essential Maths. We know these kids. We're really passionate about the sort of students that we get in Essential Maths, and we really want to help out the teachers that teach those kids. We know, because we work in schools, how hard it is to find quality maths teachers, and then a lot of people that are teaching Essential Maths are teaching out of their subject area, and with that comes a lot of anxiety. So we have you in mind when we're writing for this book. We also have the kids in mind, because just like my class, your class is going to be the same. A lot of those kids have SBAs, they go to TAFE, they do a whole wide range of other things. And so they're not there a lot of the time. So it needs to be set up so it's easy for them to catch up if they need to. So let's have a bit of a look at some of our page samples. So our section content, we have been meticulous in trying to organise the subject matter in exactly the same sequence as the syllabus so that it's really easy to follow. You'll notice the learning objectives are linked to the syllabus subject matter. This why is section, so it might be why is this essential, or why is this essential? We've simplified that a little bit, but we've put it in dot points just to make it a little bit easier to read. But we really love that section because it gives that real life context to the subject matter, and that's really key to essential maths. It's about giving kids numeracy skills that are essential to living in this current world. In the what you need to know sections, we've really tried to keep that really clear, really explicit. We don't leave anything out because we know that we've got inexperienced teachers around the state who need our support. We also have kids who are in and out of room and need our support. So it's been really managed so that those kids can catch up and that we can give confidence to teachers teaching out of their subject area. So we've got lots of our examples on how to use maths to solve applications or to have applications of maths. So in pretty much every section, you'll see an example that's an application in a real world situation. We have got in those sections a consistent approach to problem solving, which you'll see across the entire book. We did have it in the last book as well, but we've really pushed it in this one. I use it myself in my own classroom and have really had great success with it. It aligns with the objectives of the syllabus and it's a really great problem solving strategy. I'm going to talk a bit more about it now. So the consistent problem solving approach follows the approach promoted within the syllabus, and it's based on the work of Peter Galbraith from UQ. It's aligned to the syllabus objectives. So you'll notice that formulate is that first syllabus objective, recall mathematical knowledge. Solve is the second, fifth, and sixth, where we use mathematical knowledge, justify our procedures and decisions, and we solve mathematical problems. Verify is that fourth objective of the syllabus, where we evaluate the reasonableness of solutions. And of course, communication is the third syllabus objective, where we communicate a mathematical knowledge. How that looks as far as giving kids an approach is we would say, well, in the formulate section, what am I being asked to do? Can I visualize the problem with a sketch? What information do I have? Are there any observations I can make? What assumptions can I make? And I can't read the bottom of that because my thing's on the way. If I go on to solve, in solve, we would do some maths, make sure they show all the step and have they answered the question. When we get to verify, it's like, is that a reasonable answer? Could I really make $6 million this month if I sell $300 worth of shoes? So does my answer make sense? Can I check my answer? And if it was a problem solving modeling task, it's like, have I discussed the strengths and limitations of that? And when we communicate, should my answer be rounded? Have I used the correct units? And, I'll write it in a sentence. In chapter 18 of the book, we have a new chapter, and it's just all about assessment tips. And this is one of the sections in that, put in a PowerPoint for you. It gives us an idea of how it would look in your teaching of that problem-solving approach. So this one is the classic how high is the tree scenario. That trigonometry is complex subject matter. It's in Unit 3, Topic 2. And the reason it's complex subject matter is because it needs rearranging of an equation that, as far as an essential maths kid, is complex subject matter. It's also in the Australian curriculum in Year 9, so I'm liking to think that all kids will have seen it by the time they hit Year 11 essential maths. So here we go. We've got our tree, we've got an angle, and we've got a length of a shadow, and we want to find the height of the tree. So in our formulate stage, and I like to say to my kids, we're going to spend heaps of time formulating the problem, looking at the problem before we get into doing any solving. We are not going to pick up a calculator. We are not going to write an equation until I've actually had a good play around with it. So in formulate, I would get them to simplify the diagram. It's a triangle. I would identify what you need to find. I need to find the height of the tree. So there's my X. I'm going to make an assumption that there's a right angle at where the tree meets the ground. I'd observe an angle, place it appropriately, and a side length. And I'd label everything because it's probably going to be trigonometry. Identify what I've got and pick my rule. Okay, I've done a lot of stuff there, but I haven't actually started doing any maths yet. That's where solve comes in. So we've identified that we're going to use tan. I would get them to do some maths, set it out nicely, make sure they've shown their steps, and check they've actually answered the question. Have I got an answer for how tall the tree is? Verify is probably one of the most important things to teach the kids after formulate, because we want to make sure that we've got a sensible answer. We don't want to be having a ridiculous answer that the tree is 200 meters tall. It's probably not going to be that. So being able to check that your answer is reasonable is a really important step for the kids, and that is really useful numeracy skills. So I'd be saying a really classic little thing, big angles make big sides. So one's opposite each other. So the biggest angle is going to make the biggest side. That's why the hypotenuse is the longest side in a right angle triangle. So I've got 55.2 degrees there. It's clearly going to be bigger than that other acute angle in that triangle. That means that the side opposite it, which is the 22.3, it has to be bigger than what I've just answered, the 15.5. So big angle, big side. So therefore my answer is reasonable. Okay, in the communication, I would say, should my answer be rounded off? Well, it does ask me to do it to 1 decimal place. Make sure I've got some correct units, it's meters, and actually answer in a sentence. The tree is 22.3 meters high. Okay, so that's how it looks when you're teaching it. These help boxes are we've placed them next to application questions lots of times through the book. And the idea is to just prompt kids when they're working their way through a question to think back to that strategy of work through. What have I got to find? What assumptions can I make? What observations can I make? What formulas can I use? Have I done all of the steps? Is my answer sensible? Make sure that that's being reinforced. Okay, while we're looking at this slide, it gives us an idea of our of the exercises that we've got there. So a few cool features there. You'll notice that down the side we have indicated simple familiar, where that's complex, it'll say complex familiar or complex unfamiliar. The exercises have all been freshened up to address feedback from the first edition. So names and photos have been more culturally broad and inclusive. We've updated questions to content of genuine interest to students of that age group. And where we could, we've got authentic acknowledgement of Australian, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples throughout that subject matter. So modelling tasks were in the previous edition. We called them problem solving and modelling tasks there. Some of the feedback we got on that was people were like, oh, there's way too much scaffold for it to be an endorsed task. It was never really intended to be an endorsed task. A textbook is a learning tool. It's a teaching tool. So we've changed that to modelling. And the idea is that as a teacher, you can provide the opportunity to teach through a problem solving strategies prior to giving the kids a problem solving and modelling assessment task to complete. So it really is a learning activity, it's a teaching activity, and we've got questions through it, but that's sort of to guide students through that problem-solving approach. Again, they have been freshened up. Some of them are new. We've certainly changed a lot of the scaffold that we've got in those and really like them. Chapter summaries are a new feature of this edition, and they provide a summary of the content for each topic. We've also got chapter checklists, which we had in the first edition, but you'll notice that this edition, we've included reference to the textbook sections as well. The chapter reviews now include a reference to the textbook section that we've got. We've got questions are classified as simple familiar, complex unfamiliar. And I will actually add that every success criteria we have on those chapter checklists, I forgot to mention that before, they're aligned to every syllabus dot point. Another new feature is we now have unit reviews. So at the end of each unit, there's a whole chapter of revision style questions for the students. So it's a new feature, this one. And the questions are classified as simple familiar, and complex unfamiliar. We've also included a reference to the textbook section. Every syllabus dot point has at least one question in the unit review. So we've got a really comprehensive unit review there to help you guide your students to revise for the end of unit exams. So as I mentioned before, there is a chapter dedicated to assessment tips. So it has 3 sections to it. So the first one is on revision tips. So it's a good way, suggestions there on how they can organise their notes, how to be an active studier. A lot of them will sit there and just read and think that that's study, but they need to be actually doing something to be studying, practice questions, writing summary notes, tips on how to actually ask for help, and tips for what to do on the test day. Second point in that chapter is strategies to solve complex questions, as I outlined earlier. And the third one is tips on how to write a PSMT report. So being familiar with what the instrument-specific standards are saying, what is efficient use of technology, and I've also included there a suggested report structure. What does it look like when it's got an introduction, a body, and a conclusion? What sort of things need to go in each section? So that's it. We're really excited by it. It's really nice to see some page proofs coming together, and I can't wait for it to see it all finally done. So I guess we just, I hand back to you, Kim, to run the Q&A session.
Any questions that you've got for Leanne, or maybe anything that's specific that might even relate to Cameron, and welcome Cameron to as well. Cameron is the publisher on the books, so is able to really go into detail and respond to any questions that you might have specific to that sort of detail in the book. So I've got Joyce.
Kim, actually, there is one that has come up. And hi, thanks everyone for coming. I know it's been a long and busy day. So one did come up just earlier, which was from Ellen, who asked, has the language been simplified to take in the more limited literacy, which I find is common in essential maths? And I mean, Leanne, feel free to pop in, but I feel like we can say yes. So one of the examples, I think, of that was when Leanne was showing the why is insert topic here essential that appears at the start of each section. Those were obviously, they were in the previous edition for those who used it. But what we found was exactly what you were saying. So there's just been the idea is to just reduce that to a few simple dot points that convey why is it essential? How do you use this? Almost like, is there a career opportunity for it, or a daily life encounter which will require that? And we've sort of applied that just across the board where appropriate. Does that Do you think that answers everything, Leanne?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So certainly there's some simplification of questions. There's also a really broad range of kids now in essential maths. It's a subject that's really grown. So I think there was something like 17,000 students did the subject across Queensland last year, and just a bit over 20,000 did general maths. So that gap's really closing, and finding that there's quite a few students now doing general maths that are at that do need a little bit more, but there's also those kids that need to go a bit slower. But yeah, we do really keep in mind what the kids' literacy is going to be like.
Now, Joyce has popped a question up, just letting you know that our school starts units 1 in term 4 of this year. When will the online resources and PDFs of the textbooks be available? So for the essential book, that's a little bit later this year. Am I right, Cam? The actual finished book itself, it'll be October, I think. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's what we're aiming towards. Yeah.
Okay, so we will have anything that we can get available for everyone early, so you've got plenty of time for preparation. We'll have page proofs coming through, and we've got a landing page specific to the titles. I'm so sure that you've all had so much marketing material already being thrown out at you all that you've got all of that info. But if not, when after this webinar, it'll probably be tomorrow morning, to be honest with you, everyone will receive an email with a feedback form, all of that stuff. And inside that feedback form will also be the detail of the landing page, and that's where we'll put page proofs up so you can really start preparing and getting ready with all of that. Are we being offered examples of PSMTs through QCAA? Is that a question for you?
Probably. I mean, as not being in QCAA, I can't definitively say that did occur last time.
Look, I did the QCAA webinar a few weeks ago, and I don't think that they're producing samples again, because what we've got this time around is just a reorganisation of the syllabus. So example PSMT tasks are we've already got examples of that on the QCAA website. So I believe that they are not producing any new material. We will have some examples of stuff up, but yeah, really it's what's out there already now is what's circulating.
What else do we have here? I just saw something come in. Yeah, Jennifer's just said they've said no at the recent webinar as teachers were using too close to the samples. So
there we go.
It's agreed. Yeah. That's exactly what happened too. If any thoughts come to mind, please drop anything into the chat. But while we were all sitting in the green room prior to the webinar, Cameron, I think that you made mention of the new digital things that...
and Joyce just brought those up. So in the same way, there's sort of a combination of things. Matching the syllabus seems to be the main thing we're doing with this edition, is a refinement and rearrangement. Very similar thing going on with the digital resources. We're not reinventing the wheel, but just hearing feedback from the schools we've spoken with, the teachers we've spoken with, and going through the usual assets that were there last time. So work solutions, curriculum grid, teaching programs, spreadsheets and calculated activities, quizzes, chapter tests, test bank questions, guides, and that's the pre-existing assessment stuff as well. So yes, that will be there and getting refined similarly.
Julie has said, Leanne, may I get a copy of your slides to share with my colleagues who also teach essential maths, especially your slides on the formula and solve, verify and communicate elaboration with questions. Yes, we can definitely make that happen. If you're okay with that, Leanne, I can share anything.
I'd love everyone to use it.
Great.
Yeah, but it's not my work per se. It's picking up on the work of Peter Galbraith, who was a consultant with QCAA. So QCAA got Peter Galbraith in. He's a legend, and I'm really just trying to support what the syllabus is saying. And the syllabus is all about problem solving, and that's the technique, and that's how it looks in the classroom.
Yeah. There's no more questions coming in just yet, but if anything pops to mind, of course, Was there anything else digitally, Cameron, that you wanted to add in there? We've run over all of the, yeah, we have really run over all the new timelines. Nothing else popping up. Well, while we can leave that for a few moments and let people think about anything else that might come to mind and come back to it. And now I can see that we have the slides up. So Xavier, if you're there, could you flick me to the next slide following this one, please? Great. So here's the publication date. It's not just of Essential, but of all of the books here. Really, you can expect to see everything out by October. As I said, though, page proofs are due actually pretty soon. We've got some good material coming through nice and early, so you've got plenty of time to start preparing. And the landing page, which is also on the bottom of the slide here, which we will share with you, of course, we'll have everything. And believe me, you will keep getting notifications every time we add something new to the landing page. We want you to know when it's ready. We want you to have everything that you possibly can, feel completely like you know what you're doing and how you're going to get to what you're wanting. Next slide, please. So price points, $79.95, print and digital together, and digital only, of course, $63.95. Online teaching suite, $149.95. But of course, for those schools that do adopt our series, as always, the teacher accounts are complimentary. So that's just a price point for those schools that choose not to adopt Cambridge. And next slide, please. So know that we've also got other webinars coming up for the other books. Methods and Specialists is next week. And after the school holidays, week 2 of term 3, July 17, we have the general maths as well. Final slide, I think there's one more. It's always a nice opportunity to reintroduce us here in Queensland. Everyone knows us well. Myself and Annie have been in Queensland for a long time together. But we have added Deb Wilson in too. So she's at the bottom of the screen there. She's looking after Toowoomba, Bundaberg up to Home Hill, which is new for us. It's lovely to have 3 people. Takes a bit of the strain off Annie and I. It was getting very tight over the last few years. So this is really great. And Deborah's not new to this. She comes from New South Wales. She's been part of our team for a really long time. So she knows exactly what she's doing and is absolutely capable to respond to any questions that you might have along the way. Well, that's everything that I needed to cover off on, and I can see that there's no more questions here. So really the most important thing that...
I've got a few that have come through, just to jump ahead.
Yeah, of course.
There's a few that have jumped in. So a couple I've got regarding when it proofs and drafts. The irritating answer of soon is what I have to give you. Rather than a specific date, but as soon as possible, and we'll be in touch about all of that. There's also, I can see a few people have commented on wanting those slides. So
that's lovely.
Yeah, so similarly, can we have the first few topics of Unit 1 till the book is ready? Yeah, as soon as this stuff is in a nice enough state that we feel confident enough to be able to share with people, we will in proofs. There's also, regarding digital, with the video walkthroughs in the new edition, cover the examples with the PSMT methods, formulate, solve, verify, communicate. Yes, they will. As last time, or the examples would have a video. If there's a new example / changed, we will have updated those to meet that requirement. Yep, more people wanting slides. They're popular. We'll just have should have charged for them. That's the
that's great. And trying to give kids confidence in taking on those complex questions. That's how you get the kids from that B to an A, because like that last 20% of the exam is where the complex subject matter is. And if they feel confident to actually play with it a little bit, break it up, and then hopefully, you start to see what do I know? What can I do with that? It makes a big difference to the kids, just having that strategy. Hopefully more A's.
Definitely.
Or even just more C's.
I can see there is a question, hopefully, Leanne, I think you'd be best placed to answer this. Is there much variation between essential and general from those students who move from one to the other?
Much variation for between the two subjects. I actually teach both of them this year, and I teach specialist maths as well. So that's really fun when the specialist kids and the essential kids meet each other in the doorway. Yeah, so I do teach general and I do teach essential. Look, it's a little bit of a slower pace with the essential, and it's certainly there's like the algebraic manipulation is complex subject matter. There is only 20% complex material on their assessments. With the general, as we all know, that there's 40%, so it's 20% of that complex familiar and 20% complex unfamiliar. So for the general maths kids, having those problem solving strategies is vital. Like, you know, what you're using there for that problem solving strategy, don't just roll it out for your essentials, roll it out for everybody, because they all need it. As far as difficult, the subject matter, you know, my kids in general are finding it great. Very few failing. But as far as difficulty, yeah, general is a lot harder than essential. Essential is, yeah, everything is applied. There's very little algebraic manipulation, whereas there really is that sort of stuff in the general. But that's probably a bit beyond my scope to be really commenting on all of that.
Yeah, and if you do want to look at what is coming on board for the general, that's like we've got the webinar coming up in July, which will go through that content, which will emphasize, yeah, because that's the only thing I'm familiar with is its content rather than how the students fare. And yeah, it's quite different, let's say.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's another question here. So for current year 11s, would we keep with units 3 and 4, old books for year 12, old syllabus, and then for new year 11s, they start on the unit 1 and 2?
Yes. That's a yes. So I can answer that one. So the new syllabus starts with year 11 next year. So next year you'll have your year 11s on the new 2025 syllabus, and you'll have your year 12s on the 2019 syllabus. So the unit 3 and 4 textbook won't be until late next year. So it'll be a year later because it's a 2-year rollout.
I think that we've run through the questions. I actually can't see the questions coming through as they hit. So if you see anything jump in the next couple of seconds, Cameron, let me know.
Yeah, no problem.
But of course, as always, on behalf of Cambridge, thank you to everyone coming along this evening, for taking the time out of your afternoons, particularly straight after work. I know it's a long day. And thank you to Leanne very much, and Cameron for your time this evening too. Thank you all. Don't forget, everybody, again, about our webinars. I don't want to just plug at you all the time, but I don't want you to miss out either. So next week, June 13, and we'll add links into our little response email that has a recording of the webinar. We also might be able to add the slides in there as well, or they'll be very close following that if we can't. And in there too, in that email, you'll find links to a feedback form, which is really important for us. It's a really good way for us to hear what you need, what you're looking for, and so that we can always expand on whatever it is that we're doing and make things better every time. We really want to do that. The methods and specialist is next week, and following on from that, the general is week 2 of term 3. So that recording will come through. And also there's links to all of our how-to guides. So I didn't say anything about that. There's a huge amount of how-to guides, videos, info. Everything is will be listed inside that email. So you'll be able to find everything that you need in there, and response to any of the questions. So thank you again on behalf of Cambridge and everyone here. Stay safe, enjoy your evening, and please take care.